Let's look at graph transformations. For example, let's sketch y equal to the square root of x plus 2 plus 1 by using graph transformations. Now, there are different types of graph transformations. There are transformations that we call translations, which are rigid movements of graphs. And then there's also transformations called stretching, shrinking, and reflecting, which aren't rigid movements of graphs. And in this lesson, we're going to be looking at the translations or rigid movements of graphs. And we have the following: that if f is a function and a and b are positive real numbers, then to obtain the graph of f of x minus a, we shift the graph of f to the right a units. And to obtain the graph of y equal f of x plus a, we shift the graph of f to the left a units. But to obtain the graph of f of x plus b, we shift the graph of f up b units. And to obtain the graph of y equal f of x minus b, we shift the graph of f down b units. So to sketch graphs using graph transformations, or these translations here, what we do is we start with what's called a base function. And looking here, we can start by sketching y equal to the square root of x. So let's say that this is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. The square root of x looks like this, where this is the origin, 0, 0. What are some other points on this graph? Well, we know when x is equal to 1, that y will also be equal to 1, which means we know we have the point 1, 1 on our graph. Now, what other point lies on our graph? Well, we wouldn't want to put, for example, x equal to 2 in here, because then the y value would be square root of 2. So what's the next x value that we know the square root of after 1 here? Well, that would be 4, wouldn't it? Because we know that the square root of 4 is 2. So that's another point we have in our graph. So this is 4. Then this is 2 here. So this is the point 4, 2. All right, so what does this plus 2 here do under the square root to this graph? Well, looking down here, we're in the second case, aren't we? We are adding a positive number to the x value within the function, which means we're going to shift this graph to the left a units, or in this case, 2 units. So we're going to shift this graph 2 units to the left. When we do that, what's going to happen to this point here, 0, 0? The y-coordinate is not going to change, but the x-coordinate is going to have 2 subtracted from it, which means it's going to get translated to the point -2, 0. And what about this point here? 1, 1. This is going to go to 1 minus 2, 1, or -1, 1. And what about this point here? This is going to go to 4 minus 2, 2, or 2, 2. All right, so let's sketch y is equal to the square root of x plus 2. So let's say this is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. So we just found that the origin, that point 0, 0, was moving to -2, 0. So we have that point on our graph here, -2, 0. We also found that the point 1, 1 was moving to -1, 1. So we also have that point on our graph, -1, 1. And then we found that the point 4, 2 was moving to 2, 2. So we also have that point on our graph, 2, 2. So the shape is exactly the same, it's just moved 2 units to the left. All right, and looking back up here, what does this plus 1 do to this second graph here? Well, we're in this third case down here. We are now adding a positive number to the y value here on the second graph, which means we shift this second graph upward b units or upward 1 unit. So when we do that, what happens to this point here, -2, 0? This point, -2, 0, goes to -2, 0 plus 1, or 1. And what about this point here, -1, 1? This point, -1, 1, is going to go to -1, and then 1 plus 1, or 2. And this last point, 2, 2, is going to go to 2, and then 2 plus 1, or 3. That is, we have the following graph of y is equal to the square root of x plus 2 plus 1. So here is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. The point -2, 0 is moving to -2, 1. So it's here, -2, 1. And the point -1, 1 is moving to -1, 2. So here is the point -1, 2. And finally, the point 2, 2 is moving to 2, 3. So here's the point 2, 3. So our graph will look like this. Notice that we're just rigidly moving to the left and then up. All right, let's look at another example. Let's sketch this graph here using graph transformations. Again, we're going to just use translations here in this lesson. So looking at our function up here, what is our base function? It is y is equal to the absolute value of x. So let's sketch this. So let's say this is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. The absolute value looks like this. We have the point 0, 0 on our graph, as well as 1, 1, and -1, 1. So looking back up here, what does this -3 do to this graph here? Well, we're in this first case here, aren't we? We are subtracting a positive number from the x-coordinate inside the function, which means we're going to shift this graph to the right a units or 3 units. So what's going to happen to this point 0, 0? It's going to get moved to 0 plus 3, or 3, 0. In this point, what's going to happen to this point, 1, 1? It's going to move to 1 plus 3, or 4, 1. And what about this point, -1, 1? It's going to move to -1 plus 3, or 2, 1. That is, we have the following graph of y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 3. We have the y-axis here, and the x-axis. So 0, 0 is moving to 3, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 0. And 1, 1 is moving to 4, 1. So here's 4, 1. And -1, 1 is moving to 2, 1. So here is 2, 1. So this graph looks like this. All right, and finally, what does this -2 do to this second graph here? Well, we're down in this last case here, aren't we? We are subtracting a positive number from the y value, which means we're going to shift this second graph downward by b units or by 2 units. So we shift this down 2 units. When we do that, what is going to happen to the point 3, 0? This is going to go to 3 and then 0 minus 2 or negative 2. And what about this point, 4, 1? It's going to get shifted to 4 and then 1 minus 2 or negative 1. And what about this point, 2, 1? It's going to get shifted to 2 and then 1 minus 2 or negative 1. That is the graph we're looking for, or y is equal to absolute value x minus 3 minus 2, looks like this. So here's the y-axis, and here's the x-axis. So the point 3, 0 was moved to 3, negative 2. So we have this point here on our graph, 3, negative 2. And the point 4, 1 was moved to 4, negative 1. So we also have this point here on our graph, 4, negative 1. And the point 2, 1 was moved to 2, negative 1. So we also have this point here, 2, negative 1 on our graph. So our graph looks like this. So our graph is being transformed by rigid translations in both these examples. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.